You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley, with Insurance for Texans. This show exists to help pastors and church leaders across our state understand church insurance in plain language, so you can make wise decisions for your congregation. Let me tell you about Pastor Steve in Waco. He's been faithfully leading his church for nearly 15 years. And like many of you, he watches the finances closely. So when his renewal premiums jumped yet again, he decided it was time to shop around. His first request to me was simple. Ron, can you just give me an apples-to-apples comparison with what we already have? On the surface, his request sounded reasonable. But here's the problem. Church insurance is not like buying apples at H-E-B. If we had just matched his existing policy line by line, Steve would have carried the same broken protection for another year, and his church would have stayed exposed to risks they didn't even realize were there. That's the danger of apples-to-apples comparisons. The comparison may feel safe, but they actually create a false sense of security. If your current policy is outdated, incomplete, or built on shaky assumptions, then copying it word for word just locks those mistakes in place for another year. Here are 3 big reasons why an apples-to-apples comparison doesn't work for Texas churches. The first reason is that the old policy may be wrong. Buildings expand, ministries change, sound systems get upgraded, but too often the policy never gets updated. If you match that policy line for line, you're just repeating old mistakes. A second reason why this comparison is difficult is that not all carriers offer the same options. Every insurance company has its own forms, exclusions, and limits. One might exclude water backup entirely, while another includes it. One might force a high hail deductible, while another gives you choices. Trying to line them up exactly just doesn't work. And a final reason why this type of comparison fails is because it ignores the total cost of risk. Most people only look at premiums, but deductibles, exclusions, and claims handling often cost far more in the long run. A cheaper policy on paper can actually cost your church tens of thousands after a storm or a lawsuit. In Steve's case, his old policy had a deductible that looked small, but came with restrictions on wind and hail damage. If a storm hit, the church would have been out far more than they realized. The better approach isn't about matching paperwork. It's about understanding your church's unique risks, your property, your people, your ministries, and then building coverage that fits those realities. That's stewardship. That's how you protect not just a building, but the mission God has entrusted to you. If someone ever offers you an apples-to-apples comparison, I'd encourage you to stop and think about what that really means. Matching a flawed policy isn't a bargain. It's a liability. If you'd like help uncovering your church's real risks, visit insurancefortexans.com to schedule a review with us. And if you want to go deeper into how to bring clarity to your church insurance decisions, grab a copy of my book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. I'm Ron Wadley, reminding you that protecting your church isn't just about chasing the lowest premium. It's about safeguarding your ministry's future.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.